What if, in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin joined Mace Windu against Palpatine? How would that change things? Let's find out. So in this timeline, everything would be the same as in the original timeline until Anakin rushes into Palpatine's office as Mace Windu is holding Palpatine at lightsaber point. Palpatine would then try to convince Anakin that the Jedi are taking over, and Mace Windu would argue against this. And seeing as how Anakin is having a difficult time making a decision, Palpatine attacks Mace Windu with lightning to make it seem like Mace would kill him. And Mace, just like in the original timeline, would indeed prepare to kill Palpatine, saying he is too dangerous to be left alive. Anakin argues that he must stand trial, but Mace doesn't listen and goes for the swing, with the full intention to cut Sidious down right then and there. And in this moment, Anakin is forced to choose, to either side with Sidious so that he could help keep Padme alive, or side with Mace Windu and end the Sith. And with there being no time to analyze the pros and cons, Anakin makes a split-second decision. He can't let Padme die. But right before he could attack Master Windu, Anakin hears a voice in his head. "Anakin, no," the voice says. And this voice was that of Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi who freed Anakin from slavery all those years ago. And this voice makes Anakin hesitate. And because Anakin hesitated, Windu's blade reached Palpatine's head. But right before the purple saber could cut down the Sith Lord, it stopped inches from Palpatine's face. And this was not because Master Windu stopped the blade, no. It was Sidious, holding the saber away from his head, using the Force. And as Mace Windu looked at Palpatine's face at this moment, he didn't see the face of a defeated old man. Instead, he saw a being that was radiating with the dark side of the Force. And Windu realized that, until this very moment, Palpatine was putting up an act. For Anakin, for the Chosen One to betray his destiny. Mace then looked at Anakin, who had a look of pure confusion on his face. He had his blue lightsaber ignited, as Windu noted, but Anakin seemed like he didn't know what to do next. Mace would then try to tell Anakin that they need to destroy Palpatine so that the plot to destroy the Jedi, which Mace had sensed earlier, doesn't come to pass. But before Mace could let out even a single word, he is met with a powerful surge of lightning from Palpatine, which overpowers Master Windu, throwing him across the opulent office with such force that he slams into the far wall, dazed and struggling to regain his footing. And as for Anakin, who is torn between his loyalty to the Jedi and a desperate desire to save Padme, stands frozen in place, his lightsaber still ignited, but his resolve crumbling. Palpatine, seizing the moment of Anakin's hesitation, continues his manipulation. "Anakin, you must see, the Jedi would stop at nothing to control the Republic. They cannot be trusted. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy and save your wife," he proclaims with a sinister assurance, his eyes now glowing with a malevolent intensity. Anakin, now caught in a whirlwind of emotions and conflicting loyalties, finds himself at a pivotal crossroads. The Chancellor's ultimatum rings in his ears, a stark reminder of the dire consequences of his next choice. And then, amidst the chaos, a moment of clarity cuts through Anakin's turmoil like a beacon. The Chosen One realizes that Palpatine's apparent vulnerability, when he was begging to be saved from Mace Windu, was nothing more than a manipulative ploy to turn him, Anakin, against the Jedi. This understanding, though not voiced aloud, sharpens Anakin's focus and hardens his determination. And this realization, coupled with the voice of Qui-Gon Jinn, resonant and clear, guides Anakin towards the light, and Anakin realizes what he must do. Taking a step forward, lightsaber still ignited, Anakin looks at Palpatine directly in the eyes. "No one is above the law, Chancellor," Anakin declares with a firmness that surprises even himself. "If you are innocent, the Council will see it. But I will not betray the Jedi Order. You will stand trial." Hearing this, Palpatine's expression darkens, his disdain giving way to cold, murderous fury. "So be it, Jedi," he hisses, and with a swift movement, unleashes a torrent of Sith lightning towards Anakin. And Anakin, despite his newfound resolve and clarity, found himself struggling under the sheer power of Palpatine's assault. The energy crackled and hissed, engaging in a deadly dance of dark against light, as Anakin's strength began to wane. But just as he felt he might be overwhelmed, Mace Windu, recovering from the initial onslaught, leaped to Anakin's side. Together, their lightsabers became beacons in the dark, intertwining their energies to create a barrier against Palpatine's fury. For a moment, it seemed as if the two Jedi might succeed. Their combined force pushed back against the tide of darkness. Palpatine's face twisted in rage as his own power was deflected back at him. However, the Sith Lord's strength was formidable, honed through years of deception and mastery of the dark side. With a snarl of effort, he amplified his attack, the force of the lightning driving Anakin and Mace backwards, step by desperate step, towards the gaping maw of the shattered window behind them. And soon after, despite their valiant efforts, the relentless power of Palpatine's lightning proved too much. In a calculated move, Palpatine ceased his lightning assault, only to unleash a powerful Force push, catching Anakin and Mace off guard. The force of the push was overwhelming, and both Jedi were sent hurtling out of the broken window into the dizzying heights of Coruscant skyline. And as they plummeted, the vast cityscape rushing to meet them, Anakin and Mace Windu managed to regain their composure, their Jedi training kicking in despite the dire situation. Mace Windu, ever the master of control, summoned his strength and reached out to Anakin, and together, they channeled the Force, slowing their descent, transforming what would have been a deadly fall into a controlled glide. They landed atop a building amidst the speeders and sky traffic, the neon glow of Coruscant's endless night illuminating their determined faces. They knew that the battle was far from over. Palpatine, having revealed his true form, would not stop until he had crushed the Jedi Order and seized control of the Republic. And they were right. Immediately after throwing Mace and Anakin out the window, Palpatine activates his comlink and executes Order 66. And with Palpatine executing the order, the galaxy plunges into chaos as clone troopers turn against their Jedi generals in a devastating betrayal. The Jedi across the galaxy fall just as they did in the original timeline, their last stands echoing through the Force as they are cut down by those they had once led into battle. However, the fates of the Jedi within the ancient walls of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant diverges significantly from the original timeline, thanks to a crucial difference. In this timeline, the temple remains an impenetrable fortress, its lockdown protocols initiated by Mace Windu and his fellow council members as a precautionary measure when they went to confront Palpatine. This happened in the original timeline as well, but unlike in the original timeline, without Anakin there to get the temple defenses lowered, the clones find themselves unable to breach its defenses here. The temple's shielding technology and powerful defensive mechanisms designed to withstand sieges and attacks hold firm against the clone army's attempt to infiltrate, so that is the key difference here. Anyways, meanwhile, in the heart of Coruscant, amidst the chaotic symphony of the city planet's endless activity, Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker stood, momentarily disoriented by their escape from the Chancellor's office. Their minds, however, were not on their own survival, but on a more harrowing reality unfolding across the galaxy. As seasoned Jedi, they were deeply attuned to the Force, and through it they felt the shockwaves of the catastrophic betrayal against the Jedi. The Force around them thrummed with a sorrow melody, punctuated by the sudden extinguishing of lights across the galaxy, each light a Jedi life snuffed out. Mace Windu's expression hardened as he felt the presence of many he had known, friends and colleagues, becoming one with the Force far too soon. Anakin's face was a mask of anguish. The connections he had formed over the years tugged at his heart with a grief that was palpable. The light side of the Force was in turmoil, reeling from the loss of so many of his champions. And suddenly, Anakin, gripped by a sense of urgency and fear, thought immediately of Ahsoka Tano, his former Padawan. With his heart racing, he attempted to reach her through their bond and through any communication channels available, but there was only silence. Hoping that Rex could offer any amount of insight, Anakin attempts to contact Rex through his comlink, but that too fails, and the void left by the silence of Ahsoka and Rex spoke volumes, and a dreadful realization settled in Anakin's stomach. So side note, the events of the Clone Wars finale aboard the Tribunal Star Destroyer would remain the same in this timeline, so that is why Anakin wouldn't be able to reach Ahsoka or Rex. Anyways, as Anakin was attempting to contact Ahsoka and Rex, Mace Windu tried to contact the 187th Legion of Clone Troopers that he commanded, and Mace was able to get through to one of his commanders through his comlink, but the response Master Windu received from the clone, however, was chilling. "Master Windu, your location please." This question from the clone, devoid of the usual respect and camaraderie, was a clear indication that something was fundamentally wrong. Mace's mind raced as he pieced together the puzzle. The clone's singular focus on locating them, coupled with the abrupt loss of contact with so many Jedi, led to one inescapable conclusion: the clones had turned on the Jedi. Windu immediately turned off his comlink. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. He then looked at Anakin. "The clones have turned on us," Mace stated, the words cutting through the air with the sharpness of a lightsaber. And hearing this, it all made sense to Anakin. The realization dawned on him with the force of a supernova, illuminating the dark corners of his mind where doubt and confusion had reigned. "Fives, he wasn't lying about the inhibitor chips," Anakin whispered, the memory of the clone trooper's desperate warning, which he had not believed, surfacing from the depths of Anakin's mind. It all made sense. The strange behavior of the clones, Palpatine's manipulations, the sudden and overwhelming attack. The clarity was as painful as it was enlightening. The Republic they had fought for, the army they had led, had been turned against them in the most insidious way imaginable. Anakin's next thought was of Padme. In a galaxy teetering on the brink of chaos, she was his anchor, the person he needed to protect at all costs. With hands that trembled slightly, he activated his comlink, the urgency of the moment lending his voice a steely resolve. "Padme," he said, the moment she answered. "The Chancellor, he's betrayed the Republic and the Jedi. He's orchestrated a coup, using the clones against us." This is what Anakin put into words immediately as the figure of Padme Amidala flickered into view. On the other end of the line, Padme's confusion was palpable. Her voice, usually so composed, wavered with uncertainty. "Anakin, what are you talking about? How is that possible?" she asked. "There's no time to explain. You need to warn Bail and the other senators. Tell them the truth about Palpatine." Anakin's words stumbled out in a rush, each one underscored by a sense of desperation. Padme was silent for a moment, processing the gravity of Anakin's words. She knew that Anakin would never make such claims lightly. Padme's confusion then gave way to a burgeoning sense of purpose. "Okay, Anakin, I'll tell them. But what about you? What will you—" "I'll be back, Padme, I promise," Anakin said, knowing what Padme was about to ask. After some more exchanges, mainly having to do with Padme's safety, Anakin entered the transmission. And as Anakin concluded his urgent call with Padme, Mace Windu was in the midst of his own desperate communication. He had reached out to Shakti, one of the few Jedi Masters, who was still within the protective walls of the Jedi Temple. Her voice, calm yet tinged with underlying concern, confirmed the grim reality to Mace Windu that they all faced. She spoke of the Jedi she sensed dying across the galaxy, and reported that the clones were laying siege to the Jedi Temple, trying, but so far failing, to penetrate the temple's defenses. After assuring Shakti that he and Anakin would arrive soon to lend their support, the transmission ended, or rather it was forced to end, when transmissions around the Jedi Temple were most likely jammed. Mace then glanced at Anakin, observing the fading light of Padme Amidala's image on Anakin's comlink. He saw in Anakin a conflict that went beyond the battlefield. And then turning to Anakin, Mace's voice was firm with resolve. "The temple is under attack. Transmissions are jammed. We need to get inside and help them," Mace declared. The weight of their task was evident in his tone. Anakin nodded in agreement, the conversation with Padme still fresh in his mind. His resolve had only been strengthened by her words. "Let's go," Anakin said, his voice carrying a newfound determination. And so the two Jedi set off towards the Jedi Temple, moving through the shadowed streets of Coruscant. And as they approached the temple, the sight that greeted them was one of chaos and desperation. Clones had encircled the temple, their blasters and siege equipment aimed at its ancient walls, a testament to the betrayal that had shaken the galaxy to its core. Yet, Mace and Anakin were not deterred. They knew of secret passages into the temple, pathways known only to members of the Jedi Order, and utilizing their knowledge of these secret routes, they navigated their way into the heart of the temple, bypassing the clones laying siege outside. So side note, this is the same secret entrance that took us to new use to enter the temple in the Vader comics after Order 66. Anyways, as Anakin Skywalker and Mace Windu stealthily entered the Jedi Temple through the secret passage, they were met by Shakti, who had been coordinating the defenses of the temple amidst the chaos. The temple, usually a place of peace and learning, had transformed into a stronghold under siege, its inhabitants ready for battle. "Master Windu, Skywalker," Shakti greeted, her voice steady despite the tensions that hung in the air. "We sensed your approach. What news do you bring?" she asked. "The Chancellor, Palpatine. He's the Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, we've been searching for. He orchestrated this betrayal," Mace Windu explained, his words heavy with the gravity of the situation. And then Anakin added the following. "We faced him, but he proved too powerful. He's turned the clones against all of us." They then discussed further. Eventually the topic of maybe reasoning with the clones came up, which is when Anakin said, "Talking to the clones is no use. The inhibitor chips, Fives, tried to warn us. They're programmed to follow certain orders without question. There is no reasoning with them," Anakin said. So, like Anakin, Shakti was also one of the individuals who were aware of the inhibitor chips, but unaware of its true nature. Anyways, Mace Windu, as he listened to all this, proposed their only viable option. "Our only course of action is to confront the clones head-on, then force the Chancellor to retract this order. If necessary, we must be prepared to overthrow the Senate. I see no other way," Mace Windu said. The room then fell silent as the gravity of Mace's suggestion settled in. Every Jedi present understood what this meant. They were no longer just defenders of peace, but potential insurgents fighting for the survival of their order and the Republic itself. Shakti nodded, acknowledging the grim path ahead. "We've dedicated our lives to peace and justice, but now we must fight, not just for the Jedi, but for the soul of the Republic." The expression on the faces of other Jedi present revealed that they shared the same sentiment. And after Anakin, hearing this, his resolve hardened, the decision clear in his mind. We'll take back the Republic, whatever it takes. For the Jedi, for those we've lost, and for those who can still be saved, Anakin said, his thoughts going to Ahsoka and Obi-Wan as he says this. We take the fight to the Senate, force cities to retract the order, and then reveal to the galaxy Palpatine's true nature. It's the only way to end this, Mace Windu said. The plan was audacious. Their communications outside the temple was jammed, and there were only about 1,000 Jedi, including Padawans, present inside the temple, the rest in different parts of the galaxy, fighting the Clone Wars. But for the Jedi inside the temple, there was little choice given the circumstances. Fighting was their only option. So soon after this, to marshal the Jedi inside the temple, Mace Windu chose the temple's main assembly area, where a large holoprojector stood at the center. This device, typically used for training or to share vital information across the Order, was now the beacon that would unify the Jedi for a cause unlike any before. So shortly before this assembly, every Jedi within the temple received an alert on their personal comlinks. It was a distinctive message, one that was reserved for urgent convocations or crisis, a Jedi alert of sorts. The urgency of the message was clear, compelling every Jedi, from the most seasoned masters to the Padawans, to post their activities and heed the summons. And as the Jedi congregated in the assembly, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of anticipation and somber resolve. The vast assembly area designed to accommodate the Order in its entirety began to fill, the soft hum of whispered conversation gradually subsiding as Master Windu took his position beside the holoprojector. With a solemn nod, Windu activated the projector, and his image was magnified 100-fold, making him visible to every corner of the room. Jedi of the Order, Mace Windu began, his voice amplified and clear, resonating with the authority and gravitas that the moment demanded. We face a crisis unlike any in our history. The Chancellor, the very heart of the Republic we have sworn to protect, has betrayed us. He is Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord who has orchestrated this war and the destruction of our Order, Mace Windu declared. The revelation, only known to a few Jedi till this point, struck with the force of a physical blow, echoing in the minds and hearts of the assembly. Windu then continued, outlining the plan to confront and expose Palpatine's treachery and to reclaim the Republic from the brink of darkness. As Windu spoke, Anakin Skywalker stood by, a testament to the gravity of the situation. Anakin Skywalker, known throughout the galaxy and within the Jedi Order as the hero of the Clone Wars, was at this moment a beacon of determination and resolve for the path that lay ahead. The assembly of Jedi, united by their oath and the Force, listened intently as Mace Windu spoke. There was no dissent, only a shared understanding of the necessity of their mission. And then, as Mace Windu's briefing concluded, the Jedi rose as one, lightsabers ignited in a silent vow. The glow of their sabers cast a solemn light across the assembly area, a symbol of their unwavering commitment to the Force, to the Republic, and to the galaxy. And then, led by Anakin, Mace, and the likes of Shakti and Sindralik, they began their march out of the temple and onto the Senate building, where Darth Sidious was attempting to destroy the Jedi and the Republic. And so, as the temple doors opened, the Jedi emerged as a resolute and formidable force. The clone troopers stationed outside, taken by surprise, barely had time to react. Despite their numbers, the clones were no match for the combined might of the Jedi. Masters, knights, and Padawans alike moved with purpose, their lightsabers cutting through blaster fire, their mastery of the Force pushing back the tide of clones, attempting to encircle them. The confrontation with the clone troopers outside the Jedi Temple was fierce and tragic. Despite their superior training and command of the Force, the Jedi did not emerge unscathed. Many fell, their lightsabers extinguished one by one as they faced the relentless barrage of blaster fire from the troops they had once commanded. Yet, the sacrifice of these fallen Jedi enabled hundreds of their brethren to reach the Senate building, and upon reaching the building, they found it deserted almost. The usual bustle of galactic politics silenced by the chaos that had engulfed Coruscant. The Senate chamber, which was the heart of the Republic democracy, stood empty, its vastness amplifying the significance of the moment. The Jedi search for Palpatine was frantic, yet methodical. As they combed through the labyrinthine corridors leading to the Chancellor's office, they didn't find anyone there. Initially, the Jedi suspected that Palpatine may have been evacuated, but then the Jedi noticed that they couldn't sense Palpatine's dark presence anywhere nearby. But the realization that Palpatine was, at least for now, beyond their reach, did not deter the Jedi leaders. Instead, they decided to proceed with the other part of their plan, to expose Palpatine's treachery to the galaxy. The Senate's broadcasting system, designed to relay the democratic discourse of the Republic to every corner of the galaxy, became the medium through which the Jedi would deliver their message. Mace Windu and Anakin, standing at the center of the empty Senate chamber, initiated the broadcast. Anakin, whose heroics in the Clone Wars had earned him the love and admiration of the Republic's citizens, began the transmission. His voice, calm yet imbued with the weight of the moment, detailed the harrowing truth of Palpatine's identity as Darth Sidious, the orchestration of the Clone Wars, and the sinister purpose behind the clone troopers' inhibitor chips. All of this was broadcasted to the galaxy by the man seen as the hero of the Clone Wars. Coming from any other Jedi, all these revelations would have been met with skepticism by the galaxy, but Anakin was no ordinary Jedi. The citizens of the Republic trusted, admired, and loved Anakin to the same level as Palpatine. The reaction to this transmission across the galaxy was immediate. While Palpatine had his loyalists, Anakin's status lent credibility to the Jedi's claims. The revelations that the Chancellor was in fact a Sith Lord orchestrating the war from both sides shook the Republic to its core. In the wake of the broadcast, senators, many of whom were off-world or somewhere in the Senate district on Coruscant, began to communicate remotely, calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities against the Jedi, at least until an investigation is held. The urgency of their pleas, coupled with the gravity of the accusations, prompted the Republic Security Council to convene an emergency session, and in Palpatine's absence, all eyes turned to the Vice Chair of the Galactic Republic, who was Mace Amedda. With Palpatine gone, it was up to Mace Amedda to call up the clones, which is something he didn't want to do, but in this situation, Palpatine is nowhere to be found, Mace Amedda doesn't know what happened to him, and the Security Council would quickly reach the decision that hostilities against the Jedi should stop immediately. And so Mace Amedda found himself in an unenviable position of acting as the head of the Galactic Republic amidst the chaos. Amedda's mental state at this moment was a maelstrom of conflicting emotions and strategic calculations. Fear had gripped him, the fear of Palpatine's wrath. Yet there was a cold, calculating part of him, a survivor, who had navigated the treacherous waters of galactic politics for years. This part knew that to preserve his own skin and any resemblance of order in the Republic, he would need to act decisively and against his former unofficial master. And so, very soon into the emergency meeting of the Republic Security Council, which by the way was being carried out through holo-projectors, Amedda received pressure from multiple fronts. Senators, including the likes of Bail Organa, were shocked and outraged by the revelations, and they demanded a swift action to seize the purge against the Jedi. And left with no other option, Amedda would declare the following to the clones and to the entire galaxy. Members of the Council, esteemed senators, and citizens of the Galactic Republic, Amedda began, his tone more somber than it had ever been. But his next words were the hardest he had ever had to speak, knowing that they marked the end of Palpatine's grand scheme, as far as he knew. Effective immediately, I am ordering the cessation of all hostilities against the Jedi Order. Our clone troopers are to stand down. A full investigation into the matters will be launched, and those responsible will be brought to justice. As Amedda made the announcement, a part of him felt like he was signing his own death warrant, yet the overwhelming demand for peace from the galactic populace and the remaining institutions of the Republic left him with no other choice. Anyways, the Vice Chair's declaration was met with a mixture of relief, skepticism, and outright disbelief. Many wondered whether Amedda, a known ally of Palpatine, could be trusted to uphold his promise. Yet, the immediate effect of his order was undeniable. Across the galaxy, clone troopers ceased their attacks on the Jedi. And now, turning our attention back to the Jedi inside the Senate building who were holding off clone troopers that were trying to kill them. As the reality of Mace Amedda's order to cease hostilities filtered through the ranks of the clone troopers, in the Senate building where gathered Jedi prepared for a confrontation that could very well lead to their end, a sudden, palpable change swept through the air. The clone troopers, their weapons raised, halted in their tracks, confusion momentarily breaking through their conditioned obedience. It was almost as if a switch had been flipped inside the minds of these clone troopers. Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker, standing side by side, their lightsabers still ignited, watched this transformation with a mixture of disbelief and hope. The battle-hardened visage of Mace Windu, usually so impassive and controlled, betrayed a flicker of surprise. They were certain that the message they had broadcasted would have an impact across the galaxy, but whether it would actually cause the clone troopers to stop attacking the Jedi, well, that was not certain. But now, it was. Anakin, on the other hand, experienced a surge of relief, so potent it momentarily weakened his knees. The chaos of his emotions, fear for Padme, dread at the prospect of losing more friends, and the turmoil of his recent actions coalesced into a single, overwhelming realization. They may have a chance to end this without further bloodshed. And soon enough, like Mace Windu, Anakin and the rest of the Jedi realized that their plan worked. Just as they had protected the Republic all these years, the Republic had now protected them. So a few days after the confrontation in the Senate, the atmosphere within the Jedi Temple on Coruscant was one of somber reflection rather than celebration. Surviving Jedi from across the galaxy had returned, including Grandmaster Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano, who decided to rejoin the Jedi Order. because of everything that happened. The halls of the ancient Jedi Temple, once filled with the vibrant energy of thousands of Jedi, now echoed with a silence that spoke volumes of the loss they had suffered. Out of the 10,000 Jedi that had once served the galaxy, only a fraction remained, those who survived on Coruscant, and a few outside Coruscant who had managed to evade the clone troopers. In a solemn ceremony, reflective of the mood that had enveloped the Order, Anakin Skywalker was given the rank of Master and offered Ki-Adi-Mundi's seat on the Jedi Council. This was a testament not only of Anakin's bravery and actions against Palpatine, but also to the trust of Mace Windu that Anakin had now gained. And after the ceremony, Anakin's thoughts immediately turned to Padme. The Separatist forces were still attacking them, and the Republic war efforts were in shambles, to say the least. But still, Anakin's concern went to Padme. As Anakin made his way over to Padme, his heart was heavy with the losses they had endured. Padme, who had been tirelessly working with Bail Organa and other senators to stabilize the Republic, and after the aftermath of Palpatine's alleged betrayal, felt a mix of relief and sorrow upon seeing Anakin. Relief because he was safe and they were together again, and sorrow for the immense cost at which this safety had come. Their union was bittersweet, marked by the shared grief of the fallen and the uncertain future that lay ahead. But as they embraced, Anakin spoke of his new rank and access it granted him to the restricted archives of the Jedi Order. He confided in Padme his hope that within those ancient texts and holocrons lay knowledge to prevent his visions of her demise from coming true. As for Padme, while she understood the depths of Anakin's fear and love, and supported him, she did remind him that their strength lay in their love and unity, not just in seeking answers in some archives. Anakin didn't really believe this, but he didn't argue with Padme. But unknown to Anakin, the very fabric of his visions had shifted with the altered course of events. Palpatine's plans, though not fully destroyed, had been significantly changed, altering the future Anakin had seen in his vision. In this new timeline, the threat to Padme's life, which was so intricately linked to Palpatine's manipulation and the dark path Anakin had been said to follow, had diminished without Anakin's realization. The darkness that had loomed so close was now receding, leaving room for hope and the possibility of a future where Padme survived, not because of the secrets hidden in some archives, but because of the choices that Anakin had made. And finally, as for what happened to Palpatine, so Palpatine, when he figured that the Jedi inside the temple had survived and were now marching on the Senate, had realized that he had a very good chance of getting captured if he stayed in the Senate building. And with Anakin also choosing to not join him, Palpatine knew that the Jedi's claims would be believed by the Republic if Anakin were to make these claims. But Palpatine had, of course, planned for all of this. So what he did was go to Sereno, a planet synonymous with the wealth and the power of the Separatist leader, Count Dooku. Sereno, with its strong separatist sentiments and relative isolation from the Republic's scrutiny, provided the perfect haven for Palpatine to make his next move. Because like I said, Palpatine's escape to Sereno was no mere flight from defeat. It was a calculated move in his grand strategy. From the luxurious yet secure compounds hidden within the planet's vast estates, Palpatine could safely command the Separatist forces now, which was now leaderless with Grievous's death. Palpatine was always prepared for the eventuality of needing to shift the base of his operations. Suffice to say, Palpatine's contingency plans were as layered and complex as the dark web of manipulation he had spun across the galaxy. And despite the allegations of Palpatine being Darth Sidious now circulating among the leaders of the Separatist movement, such as Newt Gunray, Palpatine's mastery of manipulation and control remained unchallenged. His ability to instill fear and promise power and exploit ambitions had not diminished. To these leaders, Sidious was a shadowy benefactor whose strategies had brought the Republic to its knees. His identity as Palpatine, the Chancellor of the same Republic, only served to confirm his genius in playing both sides. So basically, Palpatine wouldn't have any problem continuing to manipulate the leaders of the Separatist Alliance, who, by the way, at this point are on Mustafar. In this timeline, Palpatine can't kill them just yet. And with most of the Jedi Order now eradicated and the surviving members wary of their clone forces, the Republic was more vulnerable than ever. The Jedi were now perceived as a broken shield. However, Palpatine's confidence in his ultimate success overlooked a fundamental change in the galaxy's political landscape. Survival of key Jedi figures such as Anakin Skywalker, now a Jedi Master, along with the likes of Mace Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, presented a variable that Palpatine had not fully anticipated. The remaining Jedi were not just survivors, they were symbols of hope and resilience, embodying the indomitable spirit of the Jedi Order. Overconfidence has always been Palpatine's weakness, so who knows? maybe the Jedi can still defeat him. Anyways, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed, I'm glad you did. And if you feel like helping out the channel, and if you have the time, do check out my Patreon, link should be in the description, where for $1 or more a month you can get early access to videos and some exclusive content which I'll be posting there. This wouldn't show up on the main channel for a long while. Anyways, that's it. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day and stay hydrated, my friends.